Hey y'all, today on the farm, the sun is coming up on a brisk South Georgia October morning, and I'm going to take y'all along on a typical day in peanut harvest. It is a time of year when we harvest our peanuts down here. It's a big thing in the South. If you're not from down here, peanut harvesting time is everyone's favorite time of year. That is the primary crop grown down here in the southeast United States, especially in South Georgia and lower Alabama. But I'm going to show you what the average day involves, and this is where we all begin. I blow my picker and tractor off with a large blower, backpack blower, late in the evening when I get done, so it's not dusty. If you're unfamiliar, this process involves the making of a lot of dust, And so everything's covered in dust when we get done. We blow it off in the evening, so we pick up in the morning, blowing out all the radiators and air filters and everything that has to do with air circulation on the tractor. And then we go from there. This process is repeated every day. This is one day's worth of dust. I've blown out all my filters now. Dad has gone to town to get this air conditioning line. I had an air conditioning line bust yesterday. Couldn't stop harvesting though. Had to pick peanuts about 110, 115 in the tractor. Can't stop to harvest though. So he's going to get that line this morning. We ordered it yesterday afternoon. And while he's going to get that line, I'm going to fire up the tractor, get the picker turning real slow, check every bearing, chain, belt, everything, make sure everything looks good on the picker. I've been picking a couple of hours now, so I'm going to make some adjustments. When we start out the day, the vines are a little tougher, and as the day progresses, if we have a day like today where there's no clouds and a light breeze, that's what you call an optimal peanut picking weather, no clouds and a light breeze. So the vines get crispier as the day goes on, and we have to make a less aggressive setting so that we don't grind all the vines up into a fine hay and put it in a basket. We want the vines to blow out the back. So less aggressive setting, let more material flow out of the picker. As I change the settings, one thing I got to keep an eye on is I don't want to see vines coming out the back of the picker with peanuts still on them. If you take out too many of those strippers, too many teeth, then they'll put a vine out the back of the picker. A little bit of vine like this, and you'll see a peanut or two hanging on. Something like that right there, a couple peanuts hanging on in there. We don't want that. We want to make sure all the peanuts get pulled off of the vine. So we're constantly walking behind the picker, assessing what's coming out the back, and making fine-tune adjustments to try to dial it in. A couple peanuts on a vine here or there don't look like much, but when it's a couple peanuts on a vine here or there across a field this size, it actually adds up to a whole lot. And so this is what I'm chasing right now. I got this hay mixed in. We don't want that in there. We don't want to shell peanuts. That means your setting is too aggressive. You're breaking the peanut open. That's no good. And we got some hay in there. We don't want that hay in there. We want it to be just clean peanuts, no hay, none broken up. got a watch on this head. If you run the head low enough to pick up all the vines good, and you got contact with the ground, you'll break those teeth off. We actually call them springs. They look more like a tooth, but it's a spring. So to keep from breaking those springs off, I'm always adjusting my head. You want it just low enough that those fingers will reach down and grab those vines, but not low enough that they'll impact the ground and break the springs. You have to replace those springs every morning, and so if you have broke ones. So the trick all day is to have the head at precisely the right height that it can pick up the vines, but not touch the ground and break the springs. There is a lot of paperwork involved in farming. You may not have known this, but there is. I have to fill out paperwork on every single load that leaves this field. Our wind does not cooperate. If we have a crosswind, that's what you call optimal. We have a wind that's kind of carrying with us, taking the dust along with us. And what that's going to do is going to make the tractor heat up, because this dust blows stuff up onto the radiator screens, and the radiator screens get stopped up, so I'll have to get off a lot and clean the radiator screens. Also, the radiator can get the air it needs. When the crosswind is blowing, the radiator stay clean all day. I don't have to stop at all. But yesterday, I busted the air conditioning hose because the screens got stopped up. It built up pressure in the radiator and blew an air line. And it was a long, hot day in here with no AC. So you got to keep a check on the screens and monitor that wind condition along with the temperature gauge down here on the dash. There's a tremendous more amount of vines on this half of the field than on that half, so I've had to drop back in the first gear, crawling out here real slow. But there's a lot of nuts on these vines, a lot more yield over here. Part of that, those rows up there were not irrigated. All of this row right here is irrigated, and there's actually a low portion here that holds water even more, so it is a lot of vines out here, a lot of material got to get in the head of that picker. If I'm running in second gear, which is 1.3 miles an hour, there's too much material that can't feed in quick enough. So I'm down in first gear running 0.8 and 0.9. Drifting away or blowing, the dust just sits down and hangs. It's like a low fog across the field. And what that indicates is that the humidity level has changed. When the sun starts to hide a little bit, the humidity raises up and all this dust hangs in and sits right above the ground. And what that indicates is the vines are about to get tougher, and that's what's happening. As the moisture rises, the vines get a little firmer, a little tougher. They're not as brittle, and the peanuts get harder to pick. So if you pick on into the night, if you pick once the sun touches the trees, you got to start resetting the picker and getting more and more aggressive as it gets later and darker, and eventually it'll get too tough to pick. You'll start wrapping up on the inside and causing all sorts of problems. But in some cases, you can pick on into the night if the vines have been on the ground for a long time or are super dry, because they will get more moisture in them once the sun goes down. All I'm trying to do though tonight is get to the other end of the field. If I can get down there when it's still picking, I'll be happy with today's progress. I don't know if I'm gonna make it down there before it gets dark though. I got the peanut picking done for today, but now comes the time for the dirtiest part of my job. I'm gonna clean that picker up now the day is basically over, because you get super mega 10,000% dirty when you blow that picker off. A lot of farmers do it first thing in the morning, blow it off, then go over and look at everything, but then you're incredibly dirty all day. So I get finished in the evening, then stop and blow it off, go right home, take a shower. Last thing I do, get mega dirty. Well, that's gonna get it from me today, y'all. I'm gonna let this basket down and park this beast for tonight and get ready to do it all again tomorrow. But tomorrow is Sunday, so I will maybe start here a little earlier than normal and get the picker ready, and then stop and we'll go to church. Come back after church just in time enough to eat a sandwich and get out here and pick some more nuts, because nuts gotta be picked when it's nut picking time. I thank all y'all for watching. Hope to see you next time.